Hey everyone, I'm John, and welcome to my pen tool crash course. I'm going to try not to spend too much time on the correct terminologies or histories of the pen tool. We're pretty much just going to dive right in and basically learn by doing. Now, I want to apologize beforehand if I go a little too fast for some of you. I'm just so used to whipping through this illustration stuff, but thankfully you have the power to rewind the video. And if you feel like there was anything I missed or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment or ask in the comment section below. But I promise I'll try and go slow. So let's get started. All right. Now, as far as I know, YouTube only allows you 15 minutes per video. And I realized that there's a lot of stuff we have to cover that 15 minutes simply won't allow. So I'm going to be breaking up this crash course into a series of 3 parts. Now, part 1, we're going to start off with drawing some basic shapes to kind of familiarize ourselves with the pen tool. Then after that, part 2 will be doing a quick exercise on manipulating existing shapes, letters to be exact. And in part 3, you'll get to follow along as I draw something that I'll actually be using on the myfreevectorart.com website. Now, for the purpose of this pen tool lesson, I'll be working in Adobe Illustrator. However, in my experiences, these same general guidelines and keyboard shortcuts also apply to the pen tool in other applications, such as Photoshop or Adobe Flash. Also, I'm working on a Mac, so some keyboard shortcuts may be a little different for users on a PC or in a Windows environment, but I'll do my best in trying to remember the shortcuts for PC or Windows users. So let's go. All right, here we are about to begin our basic shape drawing. And what I did was I just drew a few basic shapes on a piece of paper and took my phone and took a picture of it rather than scanning. Then I emailed those pictures to myself and then saved them to my desktop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the image file from my desktop and then drag it onto Adobe Illustrator just like this. Now I'm going to zoom out by holding Command on the keyboard and pressing the minus button. Okay, then I'm going to hold Shift on the keyboard and drag this corner down. We're just trying to get this image to fit in the area of the document, which is letter size. And just so you know, I'm holding the space bar to get the hand tool so I can kind of move around here. And if I hold Command and then hold space, I get the zoom in tool. So I can either do it that way or I can hold Command and press plus. Either way works. I use both ways. Just really depends on what I'm doing at that very second, my workflow. So let's get started. Kind of zoom in on this rounded triangle for a second. Now we're going to go ahead and grab this pen tool, but what I like to do is I like to choose an arrow tool first. A lot of times I'll choose the white arrow first and then choose the pen tool. I'll explain the difference between the black and white arrow tools here in a second, but I just like to get into the habit of selecting either or, then selecting the pen tool. And the reason for that is when I have the pen tool selected and then I hold the Command button on the keyboard, I get that arrow, whichever one that I selected first. So that's kind of handy to to get in the habit of doing. And then I'm also going to hit the caps lock button so we kind of get the crosshairs. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and place a point here. And as you can see, as I stretch out, we're not drawing any lines at this point. I'm just kind of setting my first point up. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and put that point down. I'm going to move up here a bit. And then I'm going to place another point right about here and then stretch out about that much or so. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and flip the fill and stroke colors like so. So now we have a nice white strokes so we can see what we're doing here. I guess I can go ahead and fatten up the stroke. Let's do that. So we can kind of get a better idea of what's going on. Okay, hide that. Now, you can see there's a line has only been created from our initial point to the point that I put down. And you see these arms that we're using now to kind of determine how this path in between it is going to look. So this path is affected by this arm. And since this arm is stretching all the way out here in this direction, it's going to, this white path is going to follow that arm up to a certain point. And then it starts to deviate away and start following the next arm. Almost like a magnet kind of look and feel, you know, the path wants to follow the first arm where it originates, and then as the line goes on, it starts to be affected by the second arm. So as you can see, you know, if we grab this arm and stretch it out, the path is also affected. Okay, so just keep that in mind, how these arms work. And if you notice, since I'm grabbing this arm with the white arrow tool, I can stretch out this particular arm, you know, make it small or as big as I want, and it's not going to affect this arm. It's only, as I'm dragging this arm, it affects the rotation of the opposite arm, but it doesn't affect the length or the size of that arm. So that's also something to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and undo. So Command Z, Control Z on a PC. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue on. And I don't have too much time here, so I'm going to try and make this quick. But you can see that I have this arm stretched out here. So the next point I put down, which I want to be right about here, is the next segment of the line is going to be affected by these two arms. So you can kind of see as I stretch out forward, the arm behind, or the opposite arm, gets stretched out, you know, just as much as I'm stretching out the forward one. So since we're trying to follow that round point on the triangle, we're kind of paying attention to the opposite arm a little bit, or we are paying attention to the opposite arm. So I'm going to let go, and we have a nice curve that is determined by these two arms. Okay. Now we're going to continue on, you know, we're going to kind of predict how far we're going to stretch out this forward arm so we can kind of get that nice curve going on. Okay. So here we go. This is really easy stuff, you guys. So don't get too frustrated if you don't get things perfect the first time. The great thing about all this is that you can always go back and readjust the points later, you know, if they aren't sitting exactly on your sketch's line. Okay, so now we're going to close this path here, like so. And there we have a very nice rounded triangle shape, okay? Now, moving along, I know you guys might have some questions at this point, but we'll try and get to them towards the end of the video or perhaps in the second video. So, for this oval shape, I'm going to place a point right about here, stretch out these arms, okay? Because we want it to follow this arm for quite a while before we want it to start curving, okay? So now this point, we're going to put down, we don't need to stretch it out too far because this first arm is already determining a lot of the curve already. So let's go ahead and give this guy a stroke. Well, we'll go ahead and give this guy a stroke. That sounded funny. Give it about, I don't know, 6 points. Looks good. And then same with this point, kind of stretch it out almost in the same way we did the first arm, okay? And you can see the curve isn't so great here, but again, doesn't need to be perfect. We can just move along, finish the job, okay? Close the path. Right there, okay? Now, if you hold, with the pen tool selected, if you hold the Option key, you get this upside down V arrow. And this is really good for when you want to kind of go back to a point and re-drag out those arms, okay? We're going to hit undo. And also, if you use this upside down V arrow to grab one of the arms separately, all of a sudden you can move this arm separate and independent of its opposite arm. So now these two arms are working independently since I grabbed this arm with the upside down V arrow. All right. And I'm holding Alt to get that arrow. Now, again, you can just go right to the point and then click and drag out. And there you go. You have the arm stretching out just like that again. Okay. So let's move on. I'm just going to whip through this shape, kind of give you an idea of how easily we can just kind of predict where the points go. You know, once you start getting the hang of this thing, you can kind of predict where these points are going to go and how the curves are going to look. Now, so you can see my curves aren't perfect right now, but again, you can always go back and fix them later. Like, for example, this right here. White arrow tool. Just kind of adjust the point and the arm. Kind of rotate this one out a bit. It's really simple stuff. Really easy to get a grasp of. So that was our first video on basic shapes. I really hope you got something out of it. Sorry I had to make this video a little quick. I know I'm running out of time here, so I'll see if I can explain some more features of the pen tool in the next video. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next video.